My name is Jackson Skeen. I graduated class of 2018 from Duke University.
My name is Randall. I graduated class of 2005 from Duke University.
Great to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Right now, I am the managing partner of a firm called Reeds Bay Investment Group. We are a real estate investment platform focused on lending, particularly to developers and other middle and lower middle market real estate sponsors. And in terms of how the Robertsons helped me get there, just having the courage to be entrepreneurial. I think with the Robertson program, it gives you that confidence that anything's possible, and to kind of jump in and figure things out. And it's been Reeds Bay has been one of the biggest challenges, but also rewarding ones that I've had. And I think a lot of the core confidence and competence comes from things I learned here as a Robertson.
That's awesome. How long have you been there?
We launched last year in COVID, just to add a degree of difficulty. And before that, we had kind of an incubation phase, which was about 18 months.
Yeah, I'm currently a rising 3L student at Yale Law School, and I spent the summer interning in DC at a law firm and at the DC Solicitor General's office. And so I imagine after I graduate from law school, I'll be clerking for a couple of years for federal circuit judges, and then after that, I'll pursue a career in public interest litigation. And the Robertson was really instrumental in me figuring out why I wanted to go to law school. I had a sense that I wanted to go to law school probably from a young age. I liked to argue with my parents, and I was an argumentative kid. I was very logical, hyper rational in a way, and so I loved to read and to write. And so law school to me kind of stood out in that way. But it wasn't until my first summer, that the community summer through the Robertson program, that I really found why I'd want to go to law school, to actually kind of change people's lives in the criminal justice system. I was in New Orleans working at the public defender's office, and so that experience really set me on a path. And Robertson continued to provide me with opportunities during the years I was at Duke, and then during the summers that continued to push me in that direction of ultimately wanting to go to law school.
One thing that's instilled, and one of many things that's instilled in being a Robertson, is the value of teamwork, and learning through, in the case of the scholarship program, other scholars, mentors in the form of faculty, and of course, the Robertson staff. That's carried through for me in all the way through the journey to Reeds Bay. This value set, or maybe it's a kind of like mental framework, whatever you want to call it, of kind of working through others to do things that maybe are bigger and better than what you could do alone. I think that was definitely instilled being a Robertson.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I actually have something kind of similar that I was thinking of too. For me, it was this cognizance of community, both within the community, within the Robertson community, and then without, in terms of a shared duty that was owed to the people around you. That whether it was in Durham when I was tutoring, or whether it's in New Haven when I'm working in a law clinic, or when it's after I graduate, when I ultimately hope to pursue public interest law. I think the Robertson program, to me, it was kind of this. Your tuition and your meals, your housing, everything is covered. And so there's this freedom where you don't have to pursue, maybe certain other paths that I might have taken otherwise. I felt this kind of both financial and academic freedom to kind of pursue whatever I wanted, and make an impact in the community through public service.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just to build on that a little bit, you touched on something that's maybe perhaps another value. It's the context through which we're able to be to take risks, and to give back. It is part of who we are in terms of our priorities, but it's also part of our circumstances. So one thing that Robertson instilled in me was kind of gratitude and humility, because without the context, it's hard to be selfless. It's hard to take chances and kind of succeed through others. You kind of have to be more self-centered if you don't have, something as generous as this program or some other circumstances through which you can take those risks. So,
I totally agree, and I feel like Duke can be at times feel very pre-professional, and so a lot of my friends felt they had to pursue a kind of well-defined track, a well-trodden path, Whereas, I studied English and Latin in prison studies at the Duke Divinity School,
Yep.
so it was kind of just all over the map, and I felt like I was supported to do that. When you look at the alumni too, people have done so many different kinds of things.
Yeah.
I spoke with so many alums when I was in undergrad, and it just kind of gave me a sense of the possibility, the many different paths I could have taken. And I think that's something that is indicative of the Robertson program and of them supporting people to go, wherever they want to go. But it doesn't have to be, I am going to law school, but you don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a doctor or in finance. There's a lot of different paths, and I think we see that in our alumni.
For me, the model is just showing what's kind of possible, and to show what, not necessarily what an outcome is, but a bit of the process, which involves, I think, obviously hard work, we all know that, but also, risk taking, also patience. That'd be another thing I'd say. I think the Robertson Scholarship Program is very patient. They're taking a long-term view and investment on each of us. And then also that allows us to be patient with ourselves. I think one of the hallmarks of maybe anything, but certainly entrepreneurship, is persistence. Because as I appreciate the accolade or the acknowledgement, the success came with a lot of falling down and failures and having to kind of get back up. And I think what the Robertson program does is it instills that confidence that you need to get back up and to keep going. So for me, the responsibility really is, to sum it up for future and current scholars, is to be someone who encourages the scholars to take risks, whether that be by being someone who's offering information if it's relevant to what a scholar wants to do, or it could be, out of a subject matter, just, words of encouragement, making a connection. I think the fabric of being an engaged alumnus of the program is increasing the risk-taking of those that are kind of coming behind you, so that they're encouraged to pursue their goals and also have confidence that when they inevitably fall, they can get right back up and keep moving.
Did you ever have a sense of a fear of failure coming in? I think that's something that I remember pushing past that when I was at Duke, but I think I came into the school, and it's like, when you get there,
Yeah.
most of the Robertsons are people who have been really successful in high school and have done well. But it's a different world when you get to college, and then when you move past college, you just have to be more comfortable with that. Do you remember kind of what that process was like for you, getting more comfortable with falling down and getting back up?
Yeah, it's a hard one, and I think you're absolutely right, because what it takes, if you will, to get here, it kind of fosters this, preoccupation with results. Like, you have to perform a certain way on certain tests, and you've got to perform a certain way in high school and do a certain amount of leadership activities and all these things. So there's clear assessment, and with assessment comes a focus on results. So you're kind of wired that way when you get here. I do think the program, once you're here, does a good job, I would say, frankly, an exceptional job of maybe taking some air out of that balloon, if you will, and allowing there to be space to do some of the things we were talking about earlier with regard to exploring interest, failing, and getting back up. Because to answer the second part of your question, the only way to get better at getting back up is to get knocked down, right? So, I think that's the only way to go about it, is to inevitably go through the process of falling down and getting back up.
A lot of what you're saying, Randall, about being willing to take risks and try new things, I definitely was encouraged by the Robertson to do that. So I came into law school, or to undergrad, with a broad array of interests. I considered majoring in English, classical studies, history, public policy, and economics. So it was kind of a process of narrowing it down. I took, politics, philosophy, and economics class. I took a history capstone. I took a few different public policy courses, and so I amalgamated a lot of different kinds of classes while I was at Duke. I ended up finally making the requirements for an English major, a Latin minor, and a prison studies certificate in the Divinity School. And so specifically with trying something new, The prison studies program had never been attempted by an undergrad. Through my exploration summer, where I'd done research in New Zealand, met with a professor who was running that program at the Duke Divinity School, who he himself is from New Zealand, and had started this prison studies certificate program in the Divinity School that allowed students to take courses alongside federal prisoners at Butner Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina. And so through that experience, I got to take a course on Gandhi and his thought with students who were many years older than me, who'd been incarcerated for many years, and some of whom were actually about to get out. And so I made these connections with men who had had taken a certain path in their lives, but were looking to get right back on the right track. And so that was just kind of this incredible experience. I also took a capstone course and did a few different projects in that program that I probably never would have had I not gone to New Zealand and done this this program through the Robertson and been pushed to kind of get outside my comfort zone. And that prison studies interest also tracks back even to my community summer, where I was working at the Public Defender's Office in New Orleans. And that experience really sparked in me this desire to both practically impact our criminal system and try to reform it through internships and through working with impact litigation organizations, but then also through academically and theoretically, which encouraged me to pursue that certificate. And then I guess in terms of what I've been doing at Yale Law School, I'm an articles editor on the Law Journal. And so that just requires an immense dedication to legal scholarship and to wanting to shape how certain articles are written and what gets published and what influences legal scholars in the practice of law. And so I get to focus on criminal justice, criminal law, criminal procedure articles on that team. And
the Robertson is about constant nudges, right? And I think, and good ones. And it was like kind of, you get the nudge of going over to Chapel Hill and it's like, oh, okay. And you've got nothing really to worry about. It's like, go forward, go explore. And, when it came to curriculum, meeting new people, I thought it was just a wonderful opportunity.
So I will say that there's one, I think, salient difference and then many commonalities between my experiences in the Robertson and the Mitchell Scholarship programs. I think the one, maybe it's overstated to say it's a difference, but I do think there was a different emphasis, at least was Robertson, it's in the name, leadership. I think really focused on building leaders for the world to go out in very different paths. And we had actual leadership classes and training during my time at Duke that I really appreciated and kind of gave me a new insight into working with teams and how to be an effective leader. The Mitchell, I think, once we got there, we were all in different, we came from very different backgrounds. So, you can pursue the Mitchell Scholarship until you're 30 years old. And so some of my friends were older and had careers and had just taken different approaches. And so there was less formal programming in the Mitchell, and it was more of an expectation that by the time we got there, we had already forged our way through the world and kind of understood that what we were as leaders. Just like the Robertson, the Mitchell encouraged me to try new things, meet new people doing really exciting projects. And that was something I got plugged in while I was there. And
so there's this kind of catalytic effect about sharing one's experiences that I think can really build knowledge. We live in this world a bit where everybody wants to be empirical and this, that, and the other, but I think anecdotes, stories are a big part of that kind of intellectual heft and growth as well. And I think a program like this, the Robertson Scholar, encourages that.
100%. I mean, I think back to my first summer in New Orleans again. I was 19 at the time, and I was in prison or jail almost every day. I was so concerned, and obviously I'd done a lot of reading going into this experience, that I just didn't have the credibility, right? I mean, I wasn't from the area. I was really young. I was just concerned that I would show up and our clients would just be uninterested in talking to me, just wouldn't trust me, wouldn't think I was able to do much to help them. And I was really surprised by you walk in there with a good faith, ask a lot of questions, listen to them, and a lot of them would just open up. And so that was kind of my role, is just to hear their stories. And
it's super interesting. And then the one thing too, going back to, I guess, profession and stories, I find interesting, and this is a bit of levity, particularly when you're dealing with counterparties and an investment, like you never really get the full story, right? So, learning and appreciating stories also, it builds up this like discerning muscle too. You become a better listener, you ask more questions, and sometimes folks aren't ready to tell you the full story right away, but you develop this kind of patience, and this program has helped me become the person that I am, and I think that's a really hard. You can't ever extricate that, right? That's just so fundamental.
That was a leap of faith for you too, as being the first class, right, to kind of embark on this program where you didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, it was, but it goes back to that trust thing. There was enough meat on the bone, I think, in terms of content, but then also the people that Julian put in place, and including him, and obviously himself. It was credible. It was like, all right, yeah, it's not all built, but the house is framed up. Like we'll get it done, that kind of thing. And so you kind of, that's leadership. You move forward with people like that.
I think it's just those benefits multiply upon themselves, right? It's just this huge progression where the more people who join the program, the better it becomes, and it's just really, it's powerful because of the scholars, and they make it what it is. So I feel really lucky to be a part of that community, and to have older scholars who have mentored me, and then to be able to mentor younger scholars. So yeah.
I agree with that.